this, especially if I look cuter than any girl does. Like, what's the problem? Like, what's the issue? I'm out all the time, you know, and like I'm killing a dress and no one else is. Like, the girls in the room are not doing it. Like, they don't look cute.
Y'all, this just went from quiet whispers to something that feels way bigger than anyone expected. Because it looks like what people thought was just another online rumor is now turning into a full-blown emotional situation involving E.J. Johnson, and the deeper you look, the more uncomfortable it gets. Insiders say there are alleged statements circulating, hints about private connections that were never meant to be public. And suddenly, a name gets pulled into the conversation that changes everything. 50 Cent. Now nothing here is confirmed. Everything remains alleged, but the way this is unfolding, it's not being treated like a joke anymore. Because just when people started connecting the dots, another layer hit. Some are now saying this might not just be about relationships, but about trust, about influence, about what really happens behind closed doors in an industry built on image. And that's where it gets heavy. Because it looks like this isn't just a controversy anymore. It's being framed as a personal struggle. A situation where someone may have trusted the wrong people and paid for it emotionally. Then comes the part nobody can ignore. The spotlight quietly shifts to Magic Johnson, a father who's always appeared supportive, always composed, always in control. But now people are asking questions. What does he really know, and why does everything suddenly feel so carefully managed? No proof, no confirmations, just claims. But the internet isn't waiting for answers. Because if even a fraction of this is true, this isn't just a story. It's a breakdown, and it might just be getting started.
But even I told them on my birthday, in June, that I was like, we're not doing he, we're not doing man, we're not doing gay. Like, and it was very freeing, you know, even like son. I was like, you know, the world tried to give me that label, like Magic Johnson's son. And I was like, well, he's dead. And now there is Miss Thing. Like, we're not doing that.
It looks like this situation isn't just trending, it's evolving. Because now, what started as scattered claims is beginning to form a pattern, and insiders say that pattern keeps leading back to one name: E.J. Johnson. At first, people thought this was just about bold statements and viral clips. But the more those clips circulate, the more questions they seem to raise instead of answer.
Are there pronouns that you go by today, or how do you identify your sexuality?
I just say call me EJ as much as possible. Okay. You know, it's like pronouns I don't really like he. You know, they is fine, you know, whatever. She is cool. Like, I'm really not a stickler about it.
Yeah.
They'll keep saying man or bro too many times, and I'm like, I'm not your bro. Like, you know, but it's usually just somebody you're never going to see again, so who cares?
It looks like EJ has been redefining identity on his own terms for a while now, stepping outside traditional labels, rejecting definitions, and leaning fully into a version of self that doesn't fit neatly into categories. But just as that narrative begins to settle, another twist hits. Because insiders say the conversation isn't staying limited to identity anymore. It's shifting toward connections, toward relationships, toward things that were never meant to be discussed publicly. And that's where things start getting complicated.
I don't attract gay men, and I'm not attracted to gay men. But to be honest, it's like, that's why I don't go to gay clubs. I don't go to, you know, gay things, because it's like the men that I attract are not there. I do that when I go to the straight rooms.
Because now, one specific claim is being pulled back into the spotlight: the idea that the type of attention EJ attracts doesn't align with the labels people try to place on him. And that single detail? It's driving the entire conversation forward. Because people online are asking, if the narrative doesn't match the reality being described, then what does that actually mean behind the scenes? And just when that question starts gaining traction, another voice enters the conversation.
If you believe that isn't how you want to run your family, I have no choice but to respect that. But don't pretend as if it isn't an unpopular thing.
Now the tone shifts again. Because this isn't just about one person anymore, it becomes about how the public reacts to these situations, how society processes them, and how quickly opinions start forming when something moves from private to public. And that's where the pressure builds. Because insiders say this is the moment where everything changes. What was once personal becomes public discussion. What was once private becomes content. And suddenly, the focus isn't just on EJ, it expands. Because now, people are connecting this back to a much bigger conversation happening in Hollywood. A conversation about image, about control, about how much of what people see is real, and how much is carefully managed. And that's exactly where the next name enters: 50 Cent. At first, it's just speculation. A name mentioned here. A connection hinted there. Nothing confirmed, but enough to shift attention. Because when someone known for calling others out suddenly becomes part of the conversation, people start looking closer, rewatching interviews, reanalyzing behavior, connecting details that may or may not mean anything. And that uncertainty? That's what keeps this story moving. Because right now, there's still no proof, no confirmation, just claims, reactions, and a growing sense that something bigger might be sitting just beneath the surface. And if that's the case, then what we're seeing right now is only the beginning. It looks like the conversation just took another turn, and this time, it's not just about identity anymore, it's about contradiction. Because as the narrative keeps building, insiders say people have started looking beyond E.J. Johnson and focusing on how others are reacting to all of this in real time. And that's where things start to shift. Because once the discussion moves from personal expression to public debate, the tone changes completely.
Now we live in a country where a man could say, now I'm a woman. Mm-hmm. Now I'm a woman. And we will call you by your name as a woman. But that doesn't mean that a doctor ain't gonna call you until you need a prostate examination.
Now the conversation leans into something more grounded, reality versus perception. Not attacking, not confirming, but raising a tension that people can't ignore. And just as that perspective settles in, another layer drops. Because it looks like voices from inside the industry are starting to echo subtle hints, not direct accusations, but enough to make people pause.
Your thoughts when 50 Cent blamed the second season ratings dip on gay stuff?
First of all, the pot calling the kettle black is all I'm saying.
And that moment, that's where the energy changes. Because now it's no longer just fans speculating online. It's people with direct ties to the industry adding fuel, even if indirectly. And suddenly, the spotlight doesn't just sit on EJ anymore. It expands, right onto 50 Cent. At first, it's subtle. Just connections being mentioned, moments being revisited, clips being rewatched. But then, something else happens.
Now, Fifth, when you continuously call Puff gay, does that affect your relationships in Hollywood?
I don't call him gay. I said,
Let me read it, Fifth.
Oh my God.
Sorry I can no longer help you guys. Soon you will all be gay and happy. You are all now left under leadership of Puffy Daddy. Report to the nearest rainbow. Dinner thieves in theaters.
Because now, people start noticing a different kind of pattern. Not proof, not confirmation, but a contrast between public persona and the way certain situations are handled behind the scenes. And that contrast? It's what's driving this entire second wave of attention. Because insiders say when someone builds a reputation around calling others out, every word, every reaction, every past clip suddenly carries more weight. And right now, that weight is being analyzed from every angle. Some are dismissing everything as coincidence. Others are convinced there's something deeper. But either way, the narrative is no longer simple. Because this isn't just about one person anymore. It's about how multiple stories are starting to overlap identity, influence, reputation, and the pressure of staying consistent in the public eye. And as those layers continue stacking, one thing becomes clear. This situation isn't slowing down. It's expanding. And if more voices keep entering the conversation, then what we're seeing right now might just be the middle of it. It looks like this is the point where everything stops feeling like coincidence and starts feeling intentional. Because just as the conversation reaches its peak, insiders say a new voice enters, and this time, it's not subtle, it's direct.
I'm not poking a bear. I'm saying that he's a stone. And I've spoken to 2 men he's lived in sales with. Who you heads with? Curtis!
And the moment that clip started circulating, the tone of the entire situation shifted. Because unlike speculation, this feels like accusation energy, confident, unapologetic, and designed to be heard. No hesitation. No soft language. And that alone is enough to send the internet into another spiral. But it doesn't stop there. Because just when people are trying to process that, another layer surfaces.
I know you're tight, Curtis. You gonna fall for one of my real soon. See if you figure out which one.
Oh my God. So
now the narrative turns darker. Because this isn't just about statements anymore. It starts hinting at surveillance, control, movements being watched, a level of intensity that makes the situation feel bigger than just celebrity gossip. And once that idea enters the conversation, It changes how everything is interpreted. Because now, people are
Yes, a little.
There's a little.
They're
She does a little dating.
And just when that tension settles in, another claim drops.
Couldn't compete with me, and then they couldn't compete with my passion for the truth. The thing that hurts me is I have so many producers that have amazing records that they have been not allowed to release because someone paid for them not to be released.
Now the focus shifts again toward the industry itself. Control, blocked opportunities, careers being shaped or stopped behind closed doors. And suddenly, the story expands beyond individuals. Because if even a fraction of that is true, then this isn't just about one connection. It's about a system. A system where influence decides outcomes, where silence can be bought, where narratives can be controlled. And that's the moment everything starts to feel heavier. Because now all of these threads, identity, reputation, power, begin to overlap. And right at the center of that overlap is a name that's been there from the beginning, Magic Johnson. And this is where the tone changes one last time. Because after all the noise, all the speculation, all the tension, the story suddenly becomes personal again. A father, a son, a public image built over decades. And now, a situation that people are trying to understand through clips, reactions, and assumptions. Because insiders say this is the part that makes everything more complicated. Not just what's being said, but what's being felt behind the scenes. Support, pressure, expectation, all existing at the same time. And that's what keeps this story from having a clear ending. Because there's still no confirmation.no verified proof.no direct responses tying everything together. Just layers. And the more those layers build, the harder it becomes to separate narrative from reality. So now the question isn't just about what happened. It's about what might still come out. Because if more voices step forward, if more clips surface, if anything concrete appears, then this situation doesn't just stay controversial. It escalates. And based on how fast this has already moved, it looks like we're not at the end of the story. We're right in the middle of it. It looks like this story isn't reaching a conclusion. It's reaching a breaking point. Because after everything that's surfaced, the clips, the reactions, the layered claims, insiders say the real tension is no longer about what's already been said. It's about what might still come out. Right now, nothing is confirmed.no verified tapes.no direct statements tying every piece together. But that hasn't slowed anything down. Because the internet isn't waiting for proof anymore. It's reacting to patterns. Patterns in interviews, patterns in behavior, patterns in what's said and what isn't. And the more people look, the more questions they start asking. What's real? What's being protected? And how much of this is just the surface of something deeper? Because it looks like this situation has already crossed a line where it can't simply fade away. Either it dies quietly, or something forces it into the light. And that something, insiders say, is what everyone is watching for right now. A clip, a response, a leak. Anything that shifts this from speculation into something undeniable. But until that happens, everything stays suspended in one place. Unconfirmed, unanswered, and dangerously open to interpretation. Which is exactly why this story keeps pulling people back in. Because the truth hasn't been revealed. But it hasn't been dismissed either. So now it comes down to one final question. Are we looking at another viral moment that disappears in a few days? Or are we watching the early stages of something much bigger? Something that hasn't fully surfaced yet? Because if even a small part of this turns out to be real, then this isn't just a controversy. It's a shift. And it might only be getting started.